Genocide, noun, the deliberate and systematic extermination of a national, racial, political, or cultural group. According to Matthew White, 15 million Native Americans were massacred during the conquest of the Americas, otherwise known as the Native American Genocide. After such a horrific past, how is it then that the football team located in our nation's capital can be named after, can have such a derogatory mascot and team name? Not to mention the offensive caricature that is sewn onto the players' hats and jerseys, and recognized across America as Washington's official mascot. How can we profess equality of all peoples and then mock the first Americans in our sports teams? My claim is that no national sports team in the United States should be so insensitively named, and we as citizens of this great nation should not tolerate or turn our heads away from this kind of demeaning behavior. Native American mascots should be banned from National League teams. This is a problem that has gone unaddressed for far too long, and the Washington Redskins are not the only guilty ones. The Kansas City Chiefs, Atlanta Braves, and Cleveland Indians are probably three of the largest sports franchises that have continued to use racist and demeaning Native American mascots. Take a look at the caricatures of these sports teams. Specifically this one. I see stereotypical Indian features, all with traditional Native American features that are considered sacred to their culture. Robert Munson, a member of the Oneida Nation and an activist with the Washington Indian Education Association, explains the importance of these symbols represented in these caricatures. Quote, "We see objects sacred to us, such as eagle feathers, face painting, and traditional dress, being used in not sacred ceremony or in any cultural setting, but in another culture's game. Yes, we are proud of the warriors who fought to protect our cultures from forced removal and systematic genocide, and to preserve our lands from the greed of others. We are proud, and we don't want them being demeaned or being honored in another culture's game." End quote. As Munson states, the justification of many of these teams in question for using Native American mascots is that they represent honorable portrayals of Native Americans and symbolize elements of the cultures that the sports teams want to emulate. Do these caricatures look honorable to you? Even after our nation's muddled history with race relations, we still allow national teams to reinforce Native American stereotypes that are not true. According to Jesse Albison of the Bleacher Report, in the 1970s and 1980s, the Cleveland Indians mascot would come out of his teepee and do a dance when Cleveland hit a home run. Why is this sort of disrespectful and insensitive behavior still allowed in our country? If it were any other race, other than Native Americans, imagine the reactions we would get. Let's say, for example, there was a team named the Kansas City Negroes, or the Cleveland Chinks, or the Atlanta Beaners. Now, doesn't that sound incredibly offensive to you? There would be riots in the streets to get these racist names obliterated. However, when it comes to Native American culture, the American public seems to look the other way. The blatant discrimination is completely unacceptable and absolutely does not ring true to the statement that all men are created equal, an immortal declaration that is highlighted in our Declaration of Independence. Elie Wiesel sums up my argument with his famous quote, "The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The opposite of art is not ugliness, it's indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it's indifference. The opposite of life is not death, it's indifference. Because of indifference, one dies before they actually die. No longer can we remain indifferent and justify these acts of genocide committed by the United States government, its agencies, and its personnel against Native Americans by allowing these team names to remain. If we absorb these Native American characters as mascots, we can never regard the Native Americans as truly equal. Instead, we must fight for the true equality of all people and ban, once and for all, the shameful Native American mascots in our national teams." Thank you.
All right. Let me start off with a couple of things that are pretty positive. I thought you had nice sources for your information. You had good testimony on a couple of things. You qualified them and you tried to apply them in a pretty direct way. You've got good examples that you're showing. The artifacts don't fit anywhere into the evaluation, so they don't really count. And that becomes a little bit of a problem because one of the issues that you've got here is a value judgment that you're asking us to make. That value judgment is part of the bigger problem of the speech, and that is this is not a claim of fact. This is a claim of policy supported on the premise of a value claim that some injustice or some immoral action is taking place, that our use of this is inappropriate in some way. There's not a demonstration that it causes some harm, that it produces some result. There is a claim that somebody is offended by it or sees it as being demeaning. Those are value claims as opposed to factual claims. You don't have a setup of what the structure is going to be. That's a little bit problematic. I think you do a nice job presenting the information, but like I said, it is a little bit outside of the category that we're working on. Once you've made a claim about the policy arguments, and you actually have two policy claims that you've got here. We shouldn't tolerate it and it should be banned. At the end, you kind of reduce it down to the one that it ought to be banned. Then you allow the introduction of a variety of rebuttal issues that would not have been relevant for a claim of fact. And I will give plenty of leeway to the person responding in this situation based on the fact that it's a claim of policy instead. All right, thank you.